Hello, Amy.
Hi, Courtney.
I'm so excited to talk to you today. I've been listening to the album. I've listened to it a couple times throughout the week, and then last night I listened to it in bed, and it had been a few days, and I don't know, I don't know what it is. I think it's the fact that I don't listen to music all in one body of work anymore.
Right.
Listening from front to back and the track listing that you intentionally have decided that you want it to be heard as, like, it just made me realize how much I miss the good album, an
Oh, that's
album
really
that has
cool.
moments.
Totally. I
When
love
was the
that.
last
Thank
time?
you.
When did you last listen to it all the way through?
All the way through, like a week and a half ago.
So you're listening to it all the way through still. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's actually
That's
still pretty
great.
fresh. I feel like
Yeah.
there's usually this long period of time that goes by in between finishing the album and like the album coming out somehow. And it's just been this process over the last year of recording music and putting things out and like still recording and still writing and still working on it. But then once we finally got it done, it was like at the very end of November, or like the very beginning of December. It was like, okay, go, 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 go. So it's actually not having been that long. I'm still like really enjoying the satisfaction of listening to it be finished, because I'm the kind of person that all I hear until it's finished are the things that I want to fix. It's like, oh, this piece, oh, this thing's too loud, oh, it needs this in there, oh, this part feels empty. And it's just constantly like criticizing. I mean, it's like I love it, but you're working all the time. Listening is
Yeah.
work. And it feels so good to have listening not be work anymore, and I can just enjoy it. That
Yeah.
yes,
There's like
I'm
it
into it.
seems like there's
Yeah,
a certain point where it stops becoming you listening to yourself and you're listening to it more
totally
as
something
the as
else.
everyone else is meant to listen to it. You know,
Yeah,
as it doesn't you don't go back to like you in the studio when you took that breath and hit that note. Like,
right,
it's just
right.
like
It's
a
like it's not even
world.
me anymore.
Yeah,
Totally.
it's like a world you created. One thing that I really wanted to ask you, just because again, I don't normally listen to records front to back anymore. And doing this one, like, you must love musical theater. Do you love musical theater, or am I crazy?
Not really. It's
Oh,
weird.
you,
I
you
know it's so weird. It's funny. I'm like certain things. Like if it's really kind of different. Like if it's I lived in New York for 13 years and I love going to plays. But usually either not musicals or it's like some kind of weird offbeat musical
yeah.
that isn't like the typical burst into song thing. That every time that happens, I'm always the person rolling my eyes going, I can't do it. I can't take this seriously. I can't get into it.
I'm
Um,
so shocked. I'm so
I
shocked.
know. I know, but I feel like
Everything
the
you've composed is like like
dramatic.
I can see the heroine, singing and then the chorus behind her, and it's like, or maybe it's not that it needs to be a musical, but it's like someone needs to give you all their money to score a musical.
Yeah, that one. Let's do
Like,
that.
yes, that or
Um,
that you it's
film
amazing.
scores are huge to me.
Yeah.
In fact, growing up, I was listening to scores, not soundtracks, but like the scores of music, just as often as I was listening to like Soundgarden and Nirvana and stuff. So it was like between that and like the Sleepy Hollow score, because of that absolutely cinematic drama. For sure, it's I don't know what it is. It's I'm not a super dramatic person in real life, but the music is the place for all of that in me.
Yeah.
So it's this other world, this other side of myself where all that stuff comes out and it belongs there. But yeah, it's interesting how it is kind of different than the real me sometimes.
I wrote down so many influences that I'm being presumptuous by, just assuming, but like your voice, maybe it's because we don't have such like grand, full orchestra behind all the songs, but it's like your voice can't, I've never thought of your voice as hiding. It's the star for me, but it's like your voice has all these different colors in this. I hear Annie Lennox. I hear like Kate Bush
Yes.
sometimes. I hear
Yeah.
Bjork sometimes. I
Thank you.
hear I wrote it down, but I'm a nerd and I have it all like in a notebook, so it will like it will make the noises. But
I
I
love it.
I I couldn't believe like, some Radiohead influences, Nine Inch Nails influences, and
Yeah.
it's like all these different colors to your voice. Um, I love. I'm not like a perfect production nerd because I don't know a lot about that world, but I'm learning. But it just feels like you chose 300 different microphones and then just would
Mhm.
do certain sections of your song into each one. Is that what you did, or
Thank
did
you.
you use your good old
No,
faithful?
it was between just a couple of microphones. Nick Raskulinecz, the producer that we used on this and on our self-titled album, is fantastic. Producer in general, he's great with bands because he plays every instrument a little bit, enough to really love and get into the depth of each thing,
Hmm.
vocals included. He is a really good vocal producer, and he'll push me um, to be the best that I can be. And like just really knowing somebody and knowing what they have the potential to do, it's so much better to work with that challenger than somebody who's just gonna, clap for you and support you and say, great job, sounds great. Because I'm Curtis, I know what I can do. And when you work with somebody else who really knows what you can do, you can trust them that they're not going to let it go. They're not going to let you be done with that part until you get that core thing out of you that's trying to come out. And I felt like that with Nick a lot. Vocals are a thing that I love, but at the same time, it's really intimidating. It's like, oh God, vocals tomorrow on this thing. I don't know. It's going to take a couple days to get this song like all the way. Like,
But
and it's just this
yeah,
thing because this deep focus, like until you can get it really perfect, but not perfect, like human. I have come to more and more over the years really love the accidents, really love the things that I wasn't really planning to do, but just sort of happened out of the emotion or the humanity or just the physical self that happened. And then you're like, that part where my voice broke, or that part where
yeah,
there's the breath is way too loud. I'm always the person like, turn the breaths up. Don't like
yeah.
get rid of the breaths. The breaths are the cool part. Yeah,
Perfection's boring.
totally.
Perfection's boring.
Yeah.
It's, but you, I say that, but I'm assuming that you are a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Just like even if I take away the composition part and your beautiful, amazing things you come up with on the piano, like vocally, the harmonies and all the different parts, and that's why I always am like, this she must like musicals because everything seems like these new parts are being brought
Mm.
in and it's disjointed in like in a fun way, and then the
Right.
end it always just everything comes together, and I don't even think about it as like just you singing. It just sounds like there are like all these different parallel universe Amy Lees. They all
That's
like
awesome.
came
I
together.
can tell you're a musician by the way that you think about music.
Yeah.
Because I do all these little things. I'm like, nobody's gonna get this but me. I like for the background, I love background vocals, love them. I was a choir nerd in school, so that's more of kind of the world that I was inspired by. But like for each background vocal to have a little bit of her own character.
Yeah.
It's like I'm more of this side of myself when I'm the lead singer, and then for this background vocal, she's like this little cutie girl, and this other girl's kind of like that mean, brooding voice in your head in the background. And when you put I'm hearing all that stuff and like aware of what it means to me, but you don't know, it's cool that somebody else is hearing something about that. That's awesome.
Well, the production on it, you can't hide from it. Like
Mm.
my my husband's in my band too, so we're out in Joshua Tree recording, and like I was like, everyone leave me alone. I gotta go listen to this again. And I
Awesome.
like iPod headphones instead of just out on the speakers.
Mhm.
And like he came in there and he was just like, "Are you okay?" And I was listening. I got to the God, what is that one what's the one that you have that it's called The Game Is Over.
Mhm.
Like he came in when I was listening to that one, and it just like your voice just keeps soaring and soaring and soaring. It made me so emotional, but I wasn't even focused on what you were singing about. It's like even if someone can't understand your language, they can
Mm.
still get across like this, like the pain or the sorrow. And it's like, have you ever done acting? Like, are you an actress?
No.
Yeah,
Um,
you're able to just convey these feelings, and
Thanks.
It's crazy.
That's what's cool about music is it's speaking a, a broader language than language.
Yeah.
So, to get to connect with people that don't speak the same language and to see that have a real emotional impact on somebody, it's one of the coolest things about getting to do what we do, is feeling like you're tapped into something that's bigger than yourself. It's such a beautiful thing to be able to connect to people, especially when I think back to, well, every writing moment really, but especially like in the very beginning when I was just a weird kind of lonely kid in high school, writing in my room by myself, like for that to turn into such a connection point between people that I'm not a part of that triangle, and that are, like, just for the music to be part of something that we've tapped into that's connected souls. It's the coolest part of all of it.
I think the reason that people connect with you so much is there's something dark and heavy about it. Regardless, is even when you don't have the like low tune guitars and the really, like, more chuggy, like, guitars purring,
Right.
and the aggressive stuff, it's like heavy, but and it's strong, but I feel like rock music is lacking so much vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And your music has, in my opinion, a lot of vulnerability in it. I feel like I think that's why people connect to it so much. Even people that aren't even there to appreciate all those amazing, like,
That's cool.
I don't even know the words because I don't know anything about composition. I feel like crescendo sounds like I know what I'm talking about.
That's a good one.
An
But
overture.
that's
And I
awesome.
think that's why. Do you
um
feel like that? Do you feel do you feel vulnerable, or do I have that wrong? Are you like, no, I'm
no,
like power bitch in this
it's
thing?
weird. It's become a kind of a personal challenge. Like, the more raw and the more honest and the more I can really share of the real truth, which isn't always strong. I mostly don't feel strong.
Yeah.
The music makes me feel that way. When I listen to our album, I come away from it feeling empowered and like anything is possible. But to go through what it takes to write and do all those things all along the way, I'm really trying to sort through and work through a lot of those feelings of uncertainty and vulnerability, and the struggles, the just the everyday struggles to like the biggest events of my life. And I think that if we're really being honest, like, that's the thing, that's what's going to connect us. Nobody really is just wakes up feeling like a hero every day. I mean,
Yeah.
if they do, that's awesome, good for
Yeah.
you. I There are good days, but I feel so much better when I can unload in the music, just the reality of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's all negative, but it's definitely, born out of a place of pain and longing and wanting something. So to pour that out and to express that and to admit, like, yeah, I'm not perfect, it's such a release. Especially when it is like, I'm in the rock and roll genre and I'm supposed to be cool and good looking and smart and strong and know the right answer at every turn, and I totally don't. It really pulls the anxiety away to just to be honest about that and be like, no, actually, I'm totally human.
It would be so easy for you to just write beautiful sounding songs and hide in them. Like, it would be so much easier for you to write beautiful songs and then have the whole song be about the ocean and the
Right.
flow, and that's and all in metaphors, and you can, it's like armor, and you can hide behind it, and
Mm.
your imagery and metaphors that you use are just absolutely beautiful. They're not corny at all. They're so descriptive, and I think that's why I keep thinking of you, composing for a movie, or
Right.
writing, because you create these really great images. But
Thank you.
I think that you also, like, you don't hide behind some of that stuff. And I felt like a lot of vulnerable parts of these songs, like a lot of longing, a lot of longing for people that you love and that you miss. And it's like, it feels like you were able to take something that feels like it's something that you've had to deal with, but you've like lifted it up so that even those of us that don't know what you went through we can understand it too. I find that rock and roll, like that's punk as shit. Like,
Thank
like
you.
you're just right in there. And I couldn't hide from what you were saying in their songs. You were
That's
telling me how you
awesome.
were feeling, not just saying the wind and the tree.
Yeah, yeah.
You're like,
I've
I'm
tried to
mad.
push myself. I've tried to push myself that way more and more because it really does feel more satisfying and like I'm doing something that means something. And when you do experience, especially great loss, to be able to take that and find a way to make something good out of it, to for something to be learned or something to be gained or something that you can share with somebody else, anything that you can take out of it and go, okay, well, this now exists because of that.
Mhm.
It makes it worth it, kind of. It's like you turned what happened into something good. And I
Yeah.
think that goes back to like a deep sort of lifelong mantra of mine, which is basically like, we can't control what happens to us. Everybody gets dealt a different hand, but like, we can't control what our life is. All we can control is what we do with it, like how we handle that, how we process that, and where we take it from there. And so that sounds easier than it is, and just processing that and trying to make that real is part of lyric writing for me. But any time that a song comes out of it, especially when it's born out of something that was really hard, it makes me feel like a sense of like, okay, like I can kind of put that to bed a little bit with
Mhm.
that. That feels good to do that.
How did you write? How did you write all the lyrics? How do you normally do it compared to this? Did you Are you the kind of person who you kind of just are always mulling over it in your head, or do you have like thousands of notebooks where you're just going over and over and over?
Kind of both. I
Yeah.
used to really always, and I still use a journal and I write with a pen, but more and more, it's become digital. Like I'll write in my phone notes or whatever, because then I can quickly just like erase and keep the stuff I'm not using. It's just like, I've got my phone in my hand wherever I am. So I
Mhm.
do that more than, and I didn't used to do that. But I, a couple of times this time around, was challenging myself not to fully write down or record anything until I had not the whole song, but at least like the whole chorus.
Yeah.
Like get there all the way before you like lay down a quick rough demo of it, and then get glued to part of it and feel like it's important when maybe there's something better that you can't escape anymore because you already feel like it sounds done. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
I have commitment issues with my lyrics. Like I don't,
Me too.
and when I
Oh,
write
like you
them,
can't commit?
yeah, well, when I write them down is when I commit. Like I just,
Right.
I just think of them in this abstract, melody. Melody
Right.
pops up for me first.
Me too.
Same for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can like mull that over for like a year. And
Right.
then it's like, and same thing with naming the songs. Like I haven't named a lot of the songs I'm working on now because that means that I've like,
You're
it's like
done.
I've named my child. I don't, right
Right.
now, I don't want anything to do with that baby's over there. I
Yeah.
don't need to, I don't want to know it yet.
Totally. Yeah, it's like you don't want to finalize that thing. But if I get glued to gaga la la blah blah melody stuff for too long, then nothing sounds right either because it's not the same like syllables. Do you know what I'm
Hmm.
talking about? So it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
that should be an O sound when it holds out on that long note, not like a E sound.
Yeah,
And then
mine.
it
See,
gets just too much in your head.
mine's just for like preservation.
Yeah, like what's possible.
There's certain words that I'm just like I can't sing falsetto in that. I can only sing falsetto in an oo
I
noise.
do that
I'm
too.
like, all right, so the
Sometimes
word's gonna
that's
be
helpful
blue.
though. Do you ever feel like you're putting together a puzzle? Like I find it
Yeah,
like it's helpful, almost like, well, I know that I can only hit that note
yeah,
if it's like, ah. So it's gonna
yeah,
have to be like that. It's gonna
yeah,
have to be that vowel sound.
yeah. I write. Yeah, I write. I always feel like such a douchebag saying this, but when people ask me how I write, but I think a lot of maybe you write like this too, like where you write the melody and then certain words will come forth, and okay,
Yes,
well that part of that melody has to say the word face, and then right,
exactly,
this
exactly,
sentence about a face because we got to get face in at the end there 'cause it sounds
exactly.
pleasing. Yeah.
Okay, so but the challenge where I had a couple of cool successes were trying to fight, that is so exactly my writing process, trying to fight that tendency sometimes and not get glued to, like, Wasted on You, the first one that we put out. I was like, do not go lay that down. It was like a good idea. I had sort of the chord progression and melody in my head, but I wouldn't let myself come out here and lay it down until I picked the meaning. Like, let's let these words really mean something instead of just what sounds good. Having that guide it, because it often does. So I was proud of how the songwriting of the lyrics came through in that song. Because I made that the more important thing than I typically do. So I got there and I was like, ooh, cool. That's a little play on words. It means something. I love it. Okay, now we're allowed to go in there and like start demoing and writing the verses and stuff. But
I loved hearing your voice over that type of progression and that type of style of song. Like I could hear, I was trying to think when I listen to you, I try to think of like what other singers you could have written that song for. And it's like you're so eclectic. Like I could hear Rihanna sing "Wasted on You."
Cool. Oh, you know that song "Love on the Brain"?
Yeah, like that doo-wop, like that. It's like that referencing the older generation of music, and then making like a power ballad that is so fierce, but then strays away from that, that cliche we all love,
right.
like the ding 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 ding, the Earth
right.
Angel stuff.
Yeah.
Like that was so cool. It really kept me on
Thanks.
my toes, and
awesome.
It made me feel like I was like, I need to listen to albums all the way through more.
That's
I know.
How they're meant to be. I don't do that very
to.
often. It just once in a while, there's something that is like, okay, this is that thing.
Yeah, I don't like most albums all the way through these days.
Well, I mean, I don't think everybody, especially, I think less than it used to be. People aren't thinking about that as important, as much as the singles, like getting a song that's going to grab somebody. Everybody has a short attention span, just grab them with a song. And I'm with that. Like a song can be enough. Yeah. But I know that our fans want an album, like, and that's part of the whole thing. You're talking about theater and film scores and the cinematic epicness of like, it has to be an album. Like that's just part of who we are, with the interludes and the intros and stuff.
That's the coolest intro I've ever heard in my life.
Thanks.
That's the best intro I've ever heard.
Whoa, you just said that.
It's crazy. And I'm happy I got to say it to you instead of shouting it to my bandmates, which is what I was doing.
Thank you. It was collaborative a little bit, but I got to tell you about this. You know how it's like two sections?
Yeah.
There's the first little part and then there's the big, beautiful part. I recorded that first little part in my hotel room at like 3 a.m. on my computer mic.
No way.
And I mean, it sounds like that. It sounds like kind of probably on purpose, not good quality, before it opens up into something really luscious. And that's part of what I really like about it. I never intended it for it to be like, just, that's going on there. I was just like kind of recording an idea. Quietly
opening a show like
quietly.
That. Yeah. Imagine opening a show like that, all the lights, and
that's how I want to open the show. Just like in order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The whole thing in order. Oh.
Well, I don't know about the whole thing in order. They're going to want to hear Bring Me to Life at some point.
You have, yes, we need it.
Just come back with Bring Me to Life for the encore and then we're done.
I know. I'm so happy though that you have all these like these are like cultural touchstones, these songs, and it must be a very wonderful feeling to still enjoy it. Still enjoy a song from all these different points in your career, because you were a different person when you wrote that. So for you to still be able to allow us to hear you do it live, and for it to have new meaning with your band, and you guys all collaborating together, like, that's great. I wonder if like everyone wants this long career, but I wonder if those of us that want that, like, can we actually like, double down and say, yeah, our music's good? Because there's a lot of stuff. There's nothing I've made in the last 20 years that I ever want anyone to ever hear ever again.
Oh, you can't say that.
You know what I mean? Like, you're over it for a bit.
I do. And it was a come back around thing.
Yeah.
Like with the first album, I had to get over it. I had to kind of hate it for a while and then find a new place within myself where I was like, oh wait, I don't want to reject myself. That really was me, and I can still grow and change and make beautiful music, but that I don't want that to not be a part of my story.
I think it would be fascinating to go back and listen to your old your discography, because especially if you haven't in a while, because I think you probably can tell even without listening, like how much the current state of heavy music is so, I think that we don't even quite understand how influenced we are by all of your work, everything about
Oh,
it. You
oh,
know what I
thank
mean? Like
you.
all of the gent bands and stuff that my friends all play in, like with beautiful, haunting, like single note piano over it and stuff.
That's cool. I mean, we were inspired by stuff too. Like
Yeah.
I hear our old stuff, even I'm like, oh, I know we were inspired by
Yeah.
so much music.
I'll ask you one more thing. What are you most excited and looking forward to um, for this new year, for 2021, and for you to finally, this vision of your album to come to life for everyone? What's going to be the moment that's going to define it for you at least right now in your mind?
I'm just really excited for it to come out. You
Mhm.
know, of course, we're really looking forward to when we can go back on a tour again. When we were making this music, we were thinking about live for some of it. In that moment, like we were talking about with the intro, like I want to feel that, I want to see that, I want to create that in a live show. But just living in a place of crazy uncertainty in this time, I'm not focusing on like that as like I can't wait for that because who knows how long we're going to wait for that.
Yeah.
I'm really just going to be so grateful to have this out there and to I don't know, just have it be something that the fans are feeling and experiencing and hearing, you know, what we've been doing for the past couple of years. Because I love it. It's been a decade since we released a full album, and that that means something. These aren't something that for me personally, like I can crank out every year or two. It sort of takes life lived and big inspiration.
This is heavy.
So
It's a labor of love. It feels like a
yeah,
labor of love. Like you were
yeah,
compelled.
yes.
Feels like you were compelled to do it when I was
Thank you.
listening.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed talking to you because it's so clear um, that you're a true musician, because the way that your thinking process is going through like just the listening of music, it's like me. It's like it's in a deep place and lyrics are part of it, but it's also all these other things, like the way that a sound can make you feel is magic. It's magic.
Yeah.
We get to make magic. It's so awesome. It's draining sometimes, and sometimes you're slamming your head up against a wall and all those other things. But if it wasn't worth it, then I wouldn't still be coming back to it again and again after all this time.
Well, thank you, Amy. I can't explain how special it is for me to get to talk to you, especially at this time in my life when I'm trying to record myself, and it's just, I know I don't mean to make you feel self-conscious, but you just getting to talk to you's helped me. Like
Thank you.
I'm gonna go back out in the desert and crush this album now because
Yes, your voice is incredible. We didn't get to talk very much about you.
well, you can tell I'm
But
doing the screaming part of my album right now.
yeah,
My
yeah, you
voice is
got
like
like the
dropped down an
smoker's
octave.
rattle. Well, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be I'll be watching out for you. I can't
Thank
wait to
you,
see what you do
Amy.
next.
Thank you, Amy. I think if you listen to our stuff, I think you'll be like, okay, well, all right, maybe she needs to, not be obsessed with Amy Lee a little too much. But you really inspired a lot of these songs, so I hope you like them. And if you don't,
Incredible.
just don't say anything. Just
Okay, all right, perfect.
all right. Good luck with the rest of your day, Amy.
You too, Courtney.
All right,
Bye.
bye.